welcome to Michelle Sews Again. I'm Michelle. Today I am on day 8 of my 30 days of sewing hashtags challenge. And today's hashtag is going to be a review of the Fibre fblauren top. So I bought this top last year. It looked like a super easy, it's a boxy t-shirt with cuff sleeves. And I thought it would be great for my work from home module sew along that Whitney from Tomcat Stitchery started last fall that I'm way behind on. I've mentioned it many times. And so this weekend I decided that I was going to go ahead and make the fblauren top. I've switched some things up. I'm not making it out of the fabric I was originally going to make it out of, which was a thicker waffle knit fabric. And that's because that fabric's just not going to work for me down here in South Florida. So I had a like a cocoon style wrap, or a cocoon style jacket, I guess, from Delia Creates. It's called the Carry, that I was going to make in this fabric. And so I switched those out. I figured if I make the Carry cocoon, I'll make it in the waffle knit, and I can do that later. I've got no need for that anytime soon. So this is just a jersey knit that I got from Joann's last year. It's this pretty brush stroke print with different shades of green and peach and white. So I started making this on Friday night after work. I cut out the pattern. Well, actually, I must have cut the pattern out before I left Philadelphia because it was already cut out. So I cut the fabric out, and it's pretty simple. It's only got 4 pattern pieces, 3 of which are printed when you get your AO printing done, or if you print it yourself. The 4th one is a neck binding, which is, they just give you the measurements for how long and how tall to cut it. I didn't end up having enough fabric for that, so I didn't do the neck binding, and I'll get to that in a minute. So I cut it out, and I decided that I was just gonna make the whole thing on my serger. At least that was my plan. So it's, like I said, it's got basically 3 pattern pieces. It's got a front, a back, and then the cuff for the sleeve, because most of the sleeve is grown on. It's just got the extra piece for the cuff. So I decided after making my Frugal Frocks sweatshirt lounging dress, which I did make 100% with my serger, and I was able to put the neck piece on, I put the cuffs on, I put all that on with the serger. I think actually I did hem it with my sewing machine. Anyway, so I was like, okay, I should be able to do this with my serger. So I didn't really think about the seam allowances when I was doing it. So it's a little bit bigger than what I think it would have been, but it's still really big. It's super boxy. I probably could have gone down a size, but the truth is, this is gonna be for me to be comfortable in, so I'm actually okay with it being really oversized. They do give you directions, if you don't like super boxy oversized, first of all, this might not be the pattern for you, but they do give you recommendations on how to fit it if you don't like it quite as boxy and oversized. I like it that way, so it was all fine. Anyway, so I sewed the shoulders together. And then I was skipping the neck binding because that was the next step. So step 1 was sewing the shoulders together. The second step was putting the neck binding on. And I was like, I had some binding, but it wasn't right for the shirt. So I was gonna cut a piece and do it like the pattern called for, but I was gonna get to that later. So I skipped to the next step, which was putting the cuffs on. And when I went to put the cuffs on, I realized that I had made a mistake in how I ironed on the interfacing to the cuffs. Instead of doing it where it would have been lengthwise around, I did it the other way, so it would have cut in half. by this time it was, you know, a few hours into, I don't know, an hour and a half into it. It was the end of a long week of work, and I was like annoyed with myself. So I just kind of threw it to the side and said, I'll work on this weekend once, because it pissed me off at myself. So I left it alone for until today, because yesterday on Saturday, my husband and I went to a new beach, not a nude beach. So we're trying out different beaches in the area to figure out like where we really think we're gonna, like, what will be our go-to. We had been going to Hollywood Beach. We've been there a few times and we actually really like it. I am 99.9% certain that South Beach is not gonna be the location for me. I don't think we're even gonna check that out. But yesterday we went to North Beach, and that was actually really nice. We got there at about 10 o'clock in the morning. The parking was super easy. It was right across the street from the park. When we got there, there was barely anybody on the beach. And we had, you know, predetermined ahead of time we were gonna go from 10 to 2. And when we do that when we go to Hollywood Beach as well, but by 11:30, 12 o'clock, the beach is pretty packed. I don't mind Hollywood Beach. Like I said, it's nice. It's very family friendly. There's people of all shapes and sizes, and you know, it's just a very diverse crowd. And so I feel like, you know, we fit in, and it feels comfortable there. So I wasn't really sure how I would feel at North Beach, because it is, you know, the further south you go, the closer you're getting to South Beach, which is all the perfect bodies, and, you know, I'm not here for that. Not that I'm judging, this is coming out wrong. Celebrate them, fantastic. I just won't fit in there, that's all. All right, so we went to North Beach, and even by the time we left at 2 o'clock, yes, there were more people, but it never got packed. And it was just, it's a shallower beach, which means there's not as much depth for more people to get on. I liked it. So we'll continue checking out more beaches, but I like that one a lot. Anyway, so I got a little bit of sun. I got some you know, sunburn, not too bad. I did put on SPF 50, which lasted me pretty long until I like went and hung out in the water for a while. Anyway, I digress. The reason I even bring that up is because that's why I didn't sew anything yesterday. By the time I got home and unpacked and, you know, just the sun for 4 hours, it just kind of drains my energy. So I just kind of pedaled around the house a little bit and then watched some TV for the rest of the day. So today when I woke up, I decided I was gonna tackle my fblauren top. So I started with the sleeves, or the cuffs I should say, and realized, I don't know, if you follow me on Instagram, you'll see that I played a little bit of fabric chicken this morning, because I had to recut the cuff pieces because the interfacing was already ironed on the other pieces. I barely had enough to cut out because of how wide the cuff pattern piece is. I barely had enough to eke that out. I just made it. So then I got the interfacing ironed on in the right direction, and it took me, I don't know, you know, when you're not timing something, it feels like, and it's not going well, it feels like it's lasting forever. I was really struggling with the directions on how to sew the cuff to the sleeve. It should have been straightforward, and then in hindsight, it was, but I was struggling through it. I did finally figure it out, and once I did, then it all kind of like made sense in my head, but the way they wrote it did not make sense. The problem is that you were supposed to, so you fold over one side and press it down, one of the long sides, and then you put the piece in a circle and you sew up the side seam, and then you fold it. They tell you to fold it first, which first of all, I don't think that makes sense once I figured out what to do with it. And then they tell you to sew the non-folded side to the wrong side of the sleeve. And once you do that, then you fold the cuff inside out and you put the folded side on the outside, covering the stitch marks from where you sewed on the non-folded side, and you stitch that down. The problem with that is that I couldn't get the sleeve pushed in far enough on my machine, and it was, even though it was like big, it was too tight for my machine. Even after I took the extra piece off that, you know, that lets you sew a sleeve, it wouldn't move, and it was so frustrating. I wanted to scream. So I ended up taking that off. I tried picking it off. This, by the way, this is the very first time I've sewn anything in just a basic knit jersey. The other knits that I've sewn have been double brush poly, which I've never had any trouble with, or I did French terry, which I didn't have any trouble with. This stuff is slippery and it doesn't unpick well. It was like there were holes all over the place. I ended up just cutting what I had sewn off, and so I made the sleeve a little bit shorter and I made the cuff a little bit shorter. I ended up throwing those cuffs and deciding that I was gonna do it the way that I did for my Frugal Frocks dress. So I measured out a piece of fabric, I doubled it over. Well, first I sewed the circle, you know, I sewed the side seam, then I folded it over, and then I put it right sides together, and I serged it. And so it essentially gives me the same look. It was just 1,000 times easier than what they wanted me to do. The only difference is that would have given me like a top stitch around the edge, and this doesn't. So yeah, so that was issue number one. Issue number two is because of all of that, I didn't end up with enough fabric to make the neck facing. So I did probably a cardinal sin in sewing. I don't know. I think when you don't know how things are supposed to be done, you're able to break the rules and make things work without feeling bad about it. I don't know. So for the neck, I think it came out okay. So it doesn't bother me at all. But I ended up just serging the whole edge and then folding it under like a centimeter and just top stitching it. So I didn't use a facing, I didn't use binding. I think because it's a rounded neckline, it allowed me to like do that smoothly, and I didn't have any pucker. I had no problem with this. I finished it in like 5 minutes. It was a dream. So that's what I did here, and I did a similar hem for the bottom. I serged the edge, then I flipped it over and I did, I don't know, what's that? A little over an inch hem. Yeah. So I kind of took things into my own hands when I started getting frustrated. I figure it's a basic boxy tee. I can do whatever I want with it. There's no fancy like finishes or anything that I needed to like follow specific techniques. So, so bottom line for this review, the cuff piece is a pain in my tuchus. So I did my own thing. If you're smarter than me and you can read those directions and your machine lets you fit that cuff on, then more power to you, because I think that would have looked nice. From a neckline perspective, I didn't use the neck piece that they instructed, and I think my neckline came out fine. Overall, I will definitely make this again. I will tell you right now, I'm not a fan of basic jersey knits. It'll be a while before I attempt anything with this again. I like the double brushed poly that I've used. I like the French terry that I used. I didn't enjoy this project at all. So I enjoy the finished product. I think that it looks nice and I'm happy with it. I'm glad I made it. I didn't enjoy the process at all, which is not okay for me, because the whole point of sewing is, yes, I'm getting some garments in the end, but really it's the creative process and the sewing process itself that gives me joy and that I am doing this for. So yeah, it ended up being a win, but the process was not a win. So I actually like the pattern. So I'm going to attempt it again, but I will probably use either a double brushed poly or even a woven, because the pattern says you can use either wovens or knits. So I like the style. I will make this again. I will probably make a neck facing if I make it again, rather than doing it the way that I did it, because I'm not sure this would work on a woven what I did. So we'll see. Anyway, I hope this review helped you if you're a beginner like me. If you're intermediate or experienced, then this pattern is going to be absolutely no problem for you whatsoever. Anyway, thank you for your time. I look forward to the next hashtag, whatever that might be, and it'll be coming to you soon. Thanks a lot. Bye.